All right, let's get started. So today's guest is someone who has made it her mission to explore an alternative reality on behalf of humanity. She has decided to alchemize recent events in her life into an opportunity to take a leap of faith and place trust in her higher self. She is a seer, a counselor, and a healer, but more importantly, she is courageous. It's an honor to welcome today the divinely guided and powerful Ali Battaglia. Ali, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
It's my pleasure. I recently found you on TikTok, and something about you really resonated with me from the very beginning. So I wanted to take an opportunity to have you on and get to know you a little bit more alongside my audience. So let's get right into it. What
Okay.
inspired you to start the Magic Penny experiment?
So I was inspired to create a barter exchange. And through that process, God kept refining it and refining it and refining it so that it was more aligned with New Earth principles and that it was 100% for the people and did not have any sort of energetic tie to the old systems. And through that process, I was given a intuitive nudge to also start looking into a gifting exchange where people would be gifting to each other, almost like a barter exchange where you traded, but instead it was just basically pure gifting. And through that process, I basically, I started having some health issues. And the closer I got to trying to launch this gifting idea, the more sort of interferences I got, like almost like spiritual attack type stuff. At the same time, my health was really starting to deplete, and I was in and out of the ER. And during sort of all of that emotion, I kind of was like, you know what? People need to like know that when they trust in God to follow their heart to do these ideas that they've been being called to do, that God's going to show up. And then we tap into that never-ending wellspring that we can ground that, and that there is more than enough. And as we do that, we can follow our heart to create these these new earth ideas. So I basically was just like, well, if I start now, then they can't stop me. And so I just started. And that's sort of how it was born. And basically, it was just 365 days of me giving away my services for free, as well as continuing to build like the Barter Club, New Earth business models or bridges to New Earth, I should say. Um, and improve that or demonstrate, I should say, that God will provide.
Wow, that's wonderful. Where did you learn about this?
As far as like the magic penny experiment came from just sort of like a childhood song that I had heard called the Magic Penny Song. And it basically goes, love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away and you end up having more. It's just like a magic penny. Hold it tight, won't have any. Lend it, spend it, you have so many, they roll all over the floor. And to me, remembering that song just brought me back into that energy of like there's enough in that law of infinite reciprocity. So that's sort of where the name derived from, but the idea just derived from a spontaneous spark that just sort of came up.
Wow, so this is a brand new idea. This is incredible.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. What was like an early sign that confirmed to you that you were on the right track with this experiment?
The first day that I launched it, like I said, the first day I just decided it was like I didn't really know what I was going to be doing a week before I started this. I just sort of like followed the intuitive hits and took the leap of faith. And I just told myself that like it's okay if nobody catches on. I'm going to do this for a whole year. It's more important for me to embody the trust than it is for me to worry about what is the response. And so I went in it without any, I tried to go in it without any expectations. And so the day one video ended up gaining traction. And that was probably the first inclination like, yes, it's working, keep going.
Amazing. And You mentioned some health challenges. Can you walk us through how that began and how that possibly shaped this current journey that you're on?
Yes. So basically, there has been mold hiding out in my house from a leaky pipe that we did not know was leaking, and it caused a histamine intolerance. And so for the past, I would say 3.5, 4 years, I've had this breathing issue, and the doctors did not know what it was. It was only recently that I figured out actually that it was a histamine intolerance. But long story short, because of the mold exposure, I now have a histamine intolerance, which makes it so that my body cannot break down histamine. So most food, pretty much all foods have histamine in it. And so the when your body can't break it down, foods that are high in histamine cause almost what would be like an allergic reaction. So even though I'm not allergic to anything, I have a response like I am because my body can't break down the histamine. So we thought we had found the mold issue and we hadn't. And so the symptoms kept getting worse and worse and worse until I pretty much was down to a diet of rice and in and out of the ER. And that's pretty much like what brings me back to where I was. I was also going under, under a lot of spiritual attack because I had really finally felt like I had gotten the epiphany of like what I was here to do with the gifting and the barter club and that whole thing. So I that's when I was just like, you know what? Like I've almost lost my life before. Of all the things that I thought about when I had almost lost my life back then, it was it was a soul awakening of like what I was here to do. And that sort of kicked in again because I was in and out of the ER and it was just like kicked in again. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna start it. And that's sort of how it made me take action on the magic penny.
Wow. And when taking on a journey like this, I'm sure there's like a sense of like lack of control. Like, what does releasing control mean to you in this new journey that you're on?
It's a constant it's a constant practice.
Yeah,
Like,
I can understand.
you know, on my journey, I've had a lot of loss, which I believe there's good in everything in that way, like, and I got to the point to where at one point I had to get to the point to where I lost like the thing that I loved the most, the thing that I thought I loved the most in the world. Nothing else mattered to me but this. And that's when I first finally like let go in a way where I was finally at peace with nothing but me and the divine. And when I hit that freedom point, it sort of like I had an epiphany of like, nobody can ever take this from me. Like, I'm okay with just me and the divine. And with that power, I know that I can get through anything, I can overcome any obstacle. And so, that after that path was forged to that place, I knew that when things got really bad, that I could always return to that. And so that's been like my rock to stand on as far as like being able to fall back into trust.
Yeah. And you've chosen now to provide what service exactly free of charge?
So I pretty much am doing free readings, free spiritual guidance, and I am sort of doing the well. When I first started, I wanted to be able to do readings, counseling, and healings. But once the first day got bigger than I had expected, I realized I wasn't going to be able to take one-on-one clients the way that I had originally wanted to. I thought it was going to just be a few people. So once that kind of catalyzed, I was like, okay, well, anybody who wants counseling or a reading, I'm just sort of going to give them a reading with the counseling intertwined in it. And then, so how I do those is I basically just like record a voice memo of the reading and then send it to them, and it has everything in it. And then, as far as the healings go, a lot of the healing that I have learned is shamanic based, and it's extremely powerful, but it's best used when applied multiple times. It's almost like when you take a medication, right? So I wanted a way to be able to empower somebody themselves to be able to tap into the healing that all of us have access to. And so I did like a pre-recorded guided healing that everybody can use, that I think will be more powerful than if I were just to give them one shamanic healing session. So basically, if they need a healing, then I will send them that recorded guided meditation. And if they need a reading or counseling, I'll do like the reading and the counseling sort of together.
And how do people reach out for a reading for free?
A lot of people have been messaging me. And what basically happened was the first day there was, I think, 250. I'm not sure how many people like commented on that first one. And
Wow.
so what I did was, I don't even know, I think there was like 75 people who reached out and actually ended up emailing me, because I was like, just going to whoever I was guided to. I try to do it first come, first serve. Um, and so I have 16 more to go in that long list of people who actually emailed me that first day. And then I sort of told everybody that had commented on that first day that I would go back through and start getting them as well. So I kind of feel like I want to honor that before I take on any more new ones. But what I've been doing is, sometimes people have like emergency situations where they just need one right away. And so if it's an emergency situation, I'm sort of letting new people cut in line. But I'm trying to honor the first come, first serve on that first day. And then in addition to that, once a month, I started doing what I'm calling like the Magic Penny Waterfall, where I'll like post a video, whoever comments, I'll do like a mini reading. And I try to do as many of those as I could. So I'm sort of trying to work it here and there. I'll probably keep metamorphosizing as I go.
I mean, it's amazing so far. Walk me through that journey through that social media platform. So you created the TikTok accounts specifically for this experiment, or were you doing something prior to that?
No, I had already had a TikTok account. I was basically guided by my guides to go on TikTok, and I resisted it for about a year, and then I finally just followed through with it. And I was still had decided that I wanted to give away my services for free, but I was doing it just like information sharing for the most part, where I was just giving away all my knowledge for free. And then, when friends and family came to me for readings, I would just do that for free as well. So I was just sort of like doing readings on TikTok as a service type thing for about a year, I would say, before I started the Magic Penny.
What was the difference in the following? I mean, was it overnight, pretty much like overnight fame, I guess you can say?
It wasn't overnight fame, like fame, but like just a big response. Like I think there was 20,000 views, which isn't that big on TikTok, but it's big for me. And I got like, I think 1,200 followers from that first video.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah,
That's beautiful. Do you feel that we all have the ability to tap in?
yes, absolutely. Everybody does. It's just been sort of, the programming here on the planet has just dulled our remembrance of it.
When when did you first notice that you had this ability to, I guess, be a seer?
My first abilities, well, growing up, I was always empathic, but not anything to where I could really tap in the way that I do now. I didn't really um, receive my first like awakening of gifts uh, until I was basically in a almost fatal accident back in 2000, where an angel saved me and my sister's life. And it was after that accident that my clairaudient abilities, where you can act like hear in your mind's ear almost, came online. So that was the first time my gifts came online, after that accident in the hospital when I was recuperating. Um, the visions didn't come online until about 8 years ago.
So what exactly do you experience as a seer? Like, do you see stuff in your mind's eye? Do you feel? Do you literally hear a different voice in your head?
The clairaudient started to wane after just years after the accident. That was back in the year 2000. So slowly but surely it waned. I think mostly because of my fear of what I was tapping in too much, and it was scary what I was seeing. I didn't want to tap that deeply in. And I think subconsciously I shut it down. Um, but then when the visions came in, the visions sort of took the prominent role. So I don't really hear clairaudiently unless I'm tapping in with my guitar and kind of doing like an ad lib type thing where I'll like hear the line and then I'll say the line that I hear. But that's more rare that I even do that. Most of the time it's just the visions. And what I do is basically I've developed like a dictionary of totems so that my guides can speak to me more quickly and more directly. So, like, say I'll write down, okay, if I see a brush, it means brushing the kinks out of something. If I see a boat, it means obstacles are being removed through divine intervention. And I wrote down a bunch of meanings and a bunch of totems to go with them so that my guides could use that dictionary to speak to me. And so that's sort of how I do it. I just basically ask whatever questions or I'll ask, like, just general, what do you want to tell me? And then they speak to me through these symbols.
How do you connect with the person that's just writing to you? Do they have to give you any specific information for you to tap into their higher mind?
No, they just need to let me know if they want a general reading. I just tap in and say, what does your angels want to tell you right now? What does your higher self want to tell you right now? Um, and if they want a specific question, then I'll just ask about that specific question.
Have you received any responses back from what you've provided to them, just to kind of assure you, I guess you can say, of what you've been telling them?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. People are uh, totally stoked. And, throughout the years, I've sort of done readings before this. So I've had that sort of practice of ironing out the kinks of how to do the readings and making sure they're accurate. And, as far as accuracy goes, I did a lot of like testing myself with me and like my best friend would like test me. I'd be like, okay, think of a movie that you watched recently or you remember the fine detail, and I'm going to tell you what happened in the movie. And so I like practiced in that way to kind of hone it.
That sounds like fun. What is the difference between clairaudience and clairvoyance?
So clairaudience is a gift of like hearing, like you hear a voice in your mind's ear, I guess you could call it. And the clairvoyance is a gift of seeing.
Is it a different voice though, or is it just a different tone of your voice?
The voice is like a I don't know how to explain it. Like, have you ever like when you hear talking in your mind, but you don't hear the actual talking? Like if you say like, "Hi, how are you doing?" to yourself in your mind, you can hear it, but you can't hear it audibly. It's like that, but it's not you talking; it's your guides.
Yeah, I've always wondered what that thought is because it seems like sometimes like crazy thoughts enter my brain, like thoughts that are not me, right? I just wonder what is the force behind that at times. Like, I try to, I'm on a path now to stay more in tune with my intuition and kind of just exploring what my first answer is when I ask a question for some guidance, right? And I wonder why, I guess an answer that if I follow that answer is going to lead me to a bad place. Let's just say, like, it's not the most favorable outcome. I guess, how do you decipher between your voice and that voice, right? Since they're not different.
That was very challenging for me. And I think that's why my guides brought on the visions because of that same thing that you're talking about. It's hard to like when I'm completely in trust and I'm doing like I used to write my songs like that where I would ad lib and I would hear a line and I would say the line and I would record what I did and I would write my song that way. But because I didn't feel like I was, giving somebody guidance, I felt more comfortable. So it flowed more, seamlessly that way because I didn't have any fear behind it. But I never did readings with that just because like for other people, just because of the same thing. It's like, how do you know the difference between that voice and your voice? You know what I mean? That was something I struggled with and I still do now. So
Yeah. You mentioned that you utilize your guitar in some fashion as a tool to assist. Is that correct?
yes, yes.
How does that go about? How do you go about doing that? Are you entering into a creative flow state? Is that what it is?
The guitar, well, the guitar started when I was clairaudient. And that's sort of how like it first started. Like practiced it, I guess you could say, it helped just to redirect my conscious mind, I guess you could say. Now with
Yeah.
the visions, I don't need the guitar in order to tap into with the visions, but the guitar helps to just keep a flow going so that like sometimes I'll be asking, for visions to come through and I'll get like a blank spot where there's nothing coming through. And I'll be like, oh shit, like I'm recording right now. Like, give me something, guys. The guitar helps to keep it more flowing so that I'm not like freaking out and thinking that something's not going to come through.
So on some recordings, are you actually playing the guitar?
Yeah. Most of the ones I
Wow.
do for people, I'm playing the guitar. Some I'm not.
Interesting. Yeah. So are you speaking to them? Is your message in a flowing song flow?
No, it's more just like the music's in the background.
Interesting. Now, w would you consider yourself a channeler of sorts, or is it more like what would be the difference between being a seer and a channeler?
A channeler is someone who, this is my understanding of it at least. A channeler is somebody who channels beings and the being comes into the person's body and speaks through them. So it takes over the person's body for a momentary time and speaks the message. A seer is like sort of like what I explained before, where I'm getting the message and then I'm relaying it.
Interesting. Yeah, understandable. Do you also said that you're a counselor, I guess, and a healer? Would you be able to expand on both? Are they one and the same?
Um, yeah. So basically, like when I first started out, I was doing a lot of inner healing, and I found a couple who was guiding me. And I'd always wanted to be a counselor because my parents were both counselors, and so that was sort of in me from that. But the people who had taught me so much, and this was like when I first started doing the inner work, they all of a sudden opened up like a class to where they were like, if anybody's interested, we'll teach you what we're doing. And I was like, oh, that's God working. I'm going to teach me everything you know. And so that's sort of how I got into the counseling. Um, as far as the healing goes, the healing was something that sort of sought me out more than I sought it out. It was sort of like when I was younger, my mom told me that I went up to her when I was like 5 years old, which I don't remember this. And she had a migraine, and I put my hands on her head, and the migraine disappeared. So the whole time she was telling me that I have these healing hands. And so that made me sort of like interested in it. But it's sort of like I was I was doing more of the readings and more of the counseling. And then these like, oh, here's a class on how to become a healer would pop in randomly. And I just knew that I was supposed to like do it, but it was almost like they sought me as opposed to me seeking it, if that makes sense.
And are you currently practicing those, like the healing?
I haven't been actively doing it as much. No, I'm not actively practicing right now. I'm mostly just doing the readings and sending the recorded, what do you want to call it? Meditation for
Yeah.
people to help heal themselves.
Now, just to play devil's advocate, for the skeptics, right? I guess some may say, if you're a healer, why not heal yourself?
Yes. So actively healing myself is something that I do every day.
Hmm.
And that's just through my spiritual practices. And I just sort of actively dive into triggers and follow those triggers to the root and transmute like that day to day. But when it comes to that, what my guides told me was that there's not one perfect person on the world. And if everybody waited until they were healed to help others, then nobody would be healing. So that it's okay to help heal others, even if you are still working through it yourself.
Yeah, I think that actually makes you more relatable in a way. It brings strength in what you're doing because you can speak from wisdom in a way. So it's beautiful. What kind of readings do you provide exactly to people? Like, do you have those that come to you with something in specific, or are you just reading their aura in a way? And, like you said, you're just tapping into them and seeing what their higher self wants. But do you ever, what comes out of that? What kind of readings come out of that? For if you can give me a random example for someone.
So some people will not know what they want, and they'll just say, just tell me what my higher self wants to tell me. And the way that it works for me is it's the same that the way it comes through regardless of how or what I ask. So if I ask, what is it that you want to tell this person? I'll start getting visions. And the visions will be something that's you most of the time on my totem list. And that's just sort of how it comes through like that. It's almost just it's sort of the same process either way. And I'll just start seeing like what their higher self wants to tell them the most right then, and start explaining it to them, and then intertwine the counseling with that. Um, and then if it's specific, then it's just sort of the same process, but for a specific question.
Do you see overall like an average response that the higher self has to the physical mind?
I'm not sure.
Like, is it common to receive the same response for a set of people? Like, so you've done this, let's say now 200 times, you got 200 responses. Is there like an average response that you typically would give to the average person? Like, meaning, at the end of the day, majority of the people, they need kind of the same advice.
I found that there's a lot of reoccurring patterns because a lot of people are dealing with the same reoccurring
Hmm.
patterns, but the messages are different for each person in the way where each person's at a different point in their journey, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel that maybe you are a bit overwhelmed or you're being drained by all of this energy that you are providing?
I kept sort of getting warned about that before I went into this to prepare me for it type thing. And so on day one, when everything started coming in fast, I got overwhelmed. And it took me about 4 or 5 days to sort of just like work with my guides and develop a system to where I would be like, okay, I'm only going to do it when I can. I'm going to fill up before I do it. And I'm only going to do this many a day. And that's sort of how it's been. And doing it like that makes it so that I have the energy. And they say you're supposed to feel energized after you do a healing or a reading. And so if I feel energized, if I start to feel like my energy is waning, then I know that that's got to be the last one for the day
Yeah,
type thing.
understandable. Do you do any special techniques, maybe like ground yourself throughout the day to kind of just recharge in the physical sense?
Yes, I'll ground, like send roots down into Gaia and ground, spend time in the
Hmm.
present, um, just sort of like just feel where I'm at and
Have you
fill up with
currently
source, really.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess going back to the Magic Penny experiment, what day are you on?
I am on day 39.
Beautiful. So where do you stand now? I mean, what has been, I guess, a couple of things that you're like, oh my goodness, this is working. I got to keep on going. Like, where are you today, for example?
So far the sort of small miracles, I guess you could call it, small miracles that have taken place have been on day one. I met a guy who sold these like crystal sort of necklaces that are really, really powerfully healing. And he basically helped me to get my mind right and like be able to deal with the health issues that I was dealing with. So that really helped get me out of the woods from being like in and out of the ER to just being able to be like, okay, I can do this. I'm starting to feel better. I think that a lot of that healing that took place during that time was also I was spending time outside of my house. So I wasn't in the mold environment. So it's hard to tell if I was getting better because I was out of the mold or if it was because the necklaces were really working. I think it was both, honestly. Um, so that was the first sort of miracle. I started feeling better. Um, the second was we basically I got the energy to face the mold issue, and we were like we're just going to start ripping everything out, and so we ripped out all of like the wood and the flooring and stuff to the places we thought the mold was, and through some sort of like random happenstance, my roommate was like, "Hey, don't you think we should check where this plant used to be. It looks like the floorboards are kind of separated here. And I was like, yeah, good idea. And he tore that up and basically inadvertently found where the mold was really coming from, which was behind the wall from the pipes leaking. And so that was a huge miracle. We pretty much accidentally found the real source of the mold. Um, so that was huge.
So you're currently not living in your home.
No,
I
yes.
guess, what are you doing currently for housing?
So for housing, that's another sort of miracle that came in. I put out sort of a call to try to find like a house sitting job, and nothing was really coming through. A family member said, "Hey, you could stay in this room. You could stay in my office." Basically, they had a room in their house that was an office, and I was like, "Okay," but I didn't really want to impose there, and it felt uncomfortable being there. So I went there right away. That was the first sort of like get me out of the environment. Before that, I was actually sleeping in a tent in my backyard, and I actually tried car camping at first as well, which did not work well. Um, but then I got a sort of like a random light bulb moment. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, I'll bet you there's like house sitting companies that maybe they let you house sit. And I went online and I found that there's like this, it's called trustedhousesitters.com. And you can basically house sit for people around the world, and it's completely free. You just basically, it's like a trade. You watch their pets and watch their house while they're gone, and you stay there for free. So that was another huge miracle that came through.
That's incredible. So are you currently staying in a home? Are you watching a home right now?
Yes, I applied right away, and one came through, and so yeah, I'm here for 10 days, watching a sweet dog and a cat.
Do you have a good view?
You can't see the ocean from where I am, but the ocean is like right down the street, so it's pretty awesome.
That's amazing. You also mentioned previously that you created somewhat of a like a barter club, is that correct?
Yes, trade and
How
barter
does that
exchange.
work? Yeah, how did that work and what's the status of it now? Like what happened with it?
So basically, I came up with the idea, which is that was one of the things I came up with right after the accident back in 2000, but never really nurtured the idea. Um, but I basically, it was almost like the house sitting thing. I was like, I wonder if this exists. I started um, looking into it, and I found that they already existed. And so I started researching the ones that existed, and I found a company that sort of like makes the software, computer software, so that you can put your barter club uh, on their software, and it kind of like makes it so that everything runs smoothly. So we just sort of spent the last like year and a half um, getting the software, ironing out the kinks. And basically, the way that it works is when you join, you get a credit of barter units. And each barter unit is worth $1. And everybody's got their units. And so far, we have about 25 people who've signed up. We're waiting to get to about 50 before we open it up for trade. Um, and once we start trading, basically, if you want something from somebody, you basically trade your barter units. And that way, it's not limited to a person to person trade. Like I'll give you my beans if you give me your cow type thing. You're able to um, buy from anybody in the whole entire exchange with your units, and then they can get from you with their units. So everybody has access to everything.
That's incredible. So you can legitimately just barter off of anything. If I have, let's say, a set of skills, I can barter that for something physical.
Yes. Like if you
Wow.
had, yeah, counseling skills or something like that, and you wanted groceries, you could trade for that. Or you could just trade your barter units for that. And then if they didn't need your specific skills, then you get that your barter units from somebody who did.
Now the platform is not up and running though, is that correct?
We have the front website up, but we haven't opened up for trade. So it's up and ready to run, but uh, God has sort of been fine tuning the process. When we first opened, basically it was as much of like for the people as I could make it, But God was like, no, we need to have no startup fee. No, we need to have it to where there's no transaction fees. And okay, now no, we need to have it to where there's pay what you can. So God has been refining it so that it's like 100% for the people, out of the old system, as close to the new as possible. And that's been sort of like taking longer to launch, but we're finally at the point now to where we're relaunching with the new setup.
That's super awesome. So this is something that already exists. Now you just have your extension on that platform, or this platform that you were speaking of is just a software to run the idea that you have. Like, is this a brand new idea, at least to your knowledge, of something that you're creating? Like, this is all brand new, or is this just a separate extension for your own, I guess, community?
So it's the idea that I had came organically, but it had already been done before. And we there are a lot of them around like the US. There's a lot on the East Coast actually. And so the people who run the software used to run a barter club. And so the software is just basically they have it for people who want to start their own barter club. If that makes sense. So we took the
Yes, no, certainly
software.
does.
Yeah, we took
So
the
they'll
software
start
and
off. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just saying, yeah, so we're just using the software and it's for anybody who wants to start one.
Interesting. Yeah. So they just provide you, I guess, with like you said, the barter bucks, I guess you can call it, right? And so that's the software itself. So every party when they join, I guess if you can provide me with like a summary of what you have so far, just to kind of get a better idea. So if I were to sign up, I would be automatically be given some kind of value assigned to me, and then from there I take it from there and see how I multiply it, kind of thing.
Yes. So basically, the software is just sort of like, okay, that everybody has a profile page, and has a back end so you can keep track of all of the barter units, and all of the like business stuff on the back end. But basically, yeah, if you sign up, you're basically you get a profile page, you get a credit of barter units, and you can once we open for trade, you can trade with anybody that you want to trade with.
I'm really excited to check this out. Uh, we previously spoke about another seer, I believe, that you had spoken about the service-based economy on another plane, I guess you can say. Can you get into that a bit?
Yes, and this is basically what really inspired the gifting community that I want to either put with the barter exchange or start a separate one. But basically, it's this lady who she does like where you like bring somebody into like a deep meditation, and then they like talk about like I don't know, I think it may be like hypnotism almost. I'm not sure how she does it. She's able to tap into these other worlds. And she tapped into the planet Sirius. And on the planet Sirius, she said the way that their economy works is they have a bunch of billboards, sort of like electronic billboards on the side of the road. And anybody who needs something, they just log their need and it goes onto the billboard. And in Sirius, it's known as a great honor to be of service. So everybody is just always everybody's free. Everybody's completely free to do what they want, and they um, uh, sign up to be, do all of the things that are on the board. And then basically they have like a another board that's like a priority board. So if something doesn't get met, it goes on the priority board, and they see it as like a super big honor to fulfill anything that's done on that board. And so it's sort of like the tapestry just sort of works effortlessly, and everybody gets what they need. And art is able to thrive, music is able to thrive, culinary arts is able to thrive, and like people can you can volunteer to be I want to be a cook for a year, or I just I know somebody really needs somebody to wait tables for a couple days. I'm going to do that for 3 days, and it's just sort of like somehow the grand tapestry makes it so that it all works.
It sounds beautiful, and it sounds sustainable. It just kind of sounds at this current time like it seems impossible to make that shift, right? I
Yeah,
mean, how are we going to get
totally.
to that point? And now I assume that this new venture that you're on, right, is I guess it's something that you're being led to, I guess, I guess to lead us into the new earth. Would you say that's, I guess, the correct phrase?
It's almost like it is exactly what you were just saying. Like, how are we going to get from where we are now to where we feel free and we can just, live freely like the people on Sirius? And from what I'm understanding, there's going to be bridges, like a barter exchange is sort of like a bridge to that place where we're sort of more people are saying, oh, I can join a barter exchange. I can only have to use money for these certain things now, and I'm getting all my needs met in this way. And then sort of like branch into a gifting exchange where people are able to gift, and they're finding like, whoa, like when I'm gifting, not only have to pay taxes on this, and I'm getting everything I was getting in the Barter Club, but I'm not even having to trade. It's just sort of working out. So it's sort of like steps to the new earth is sort of how I'm seeing it taking place. And again, we have multiple timelines that we can tap into. There could be another way that this takes place. It's sort of like at this point, we're just sort of following our hearts, doing what we're guided to do, staying open to what we're guided to next.
And utilizing your gift as like a seer, have you been able to tap into any potential timelines that may cause this shift to occur?
Honestly, I haven't even looked. And I think that the main reason why is because I don't really want to give myself any preconceived ideas of how it's supposed to work out. I'm just sort of following my guidance of what I'm supposed to do in the present moment.
Yeah, I can respect that. I always want to know what's going to happen next, right? But in a movie, the last thing you want to know is the ending or like what's going to happen next, right? So we are kind of playing out our own individual movies. So I can respect what you say, that it's kind of better not to know. There's a beauty in that as well. Um, do you feel that there are forces actively working against us, like against the spiritual awakening? Like this information we're speaking of, you and I, and the content you put out, do you think that there is something actively working towards not allowing this information to go out? And maybe like who are they?
Well, to speak to the other part too, one of the biggest things that my guides continuously tell me is to stay in the present moment. And they almost show me it like we're a projector and the world around us is the projector screen. And so when we try to go to the future and say what is going to happen in the future, we're taking our power away from ourselves as co-creators. As we stay in the present moment and follow our heart in the moment, then the new earth naturally comes to be, right? So in that's sort of how I'm being guided to deal with birthing new earth, by connecting with it in the present moment outside of time type thing. As far as the like spiritual attack, my current understanding of this is, in the grand scheme of things, God is consciousness. God is in all things, both the dark and the light. The grand tapestry, it has a self-healing mechanism woven within it, to where it's self-healing. We go through these. Somebody explained it like this: like, when you go to the gym, you go to lift weights, right? Like, if you went to the gym and there was no weights to lift, you'd be like, I came to the gym to lift weights. Like, I'm supposed to get buff, right? Earth is sort of like that. So if we came to Earth and there was no weights to lift, as a soul, we're almost like our souls getting buff as we deal with these challenges. So everything, the darkness can only ever serve the light. That being said, there are people who do bad things or not good things, and people who do good things. There are also spirits who do bad things and spirits who do good things. So in that way, there is sort of like a level of spiritual attack that's taking place. Some people call it the Illuminati. Some people call it, some people believe there are covens that actually exist that are just like, dark demonic covens who are attacking the star seeds. There's a lot of different theories out there. All I can observe from my psychic standpoint is that yes, there are interferences, and that's very real. That being said, the darkness can only serve the light. So it's almost like we use those things as stepping stones to help seal up the parts of us that still need healing. That's my current take on it, at least.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of seems like God is kind of like a jokester, right? Because at the end of the day, he kind of knows that the light is gonna win. I mean, I hope.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like the dark is his buddy. It's like his friend. Like, all right, go ahead and show me the test. Show me what you got. Let's see if I can, overcome whatever darkness is there, transitioning from the light, Have you heard of or did you look into the Three Earth Grand Experiment?
I wasn't able to look into it, but I remember what you were saying about how there's like the two different chances that we had, and then now there's like a third chance.
Yeah, so basically, I guess this game has been played twice before, and I guess the main game is that we have to transmute, we have to merge the light with the dark so we can transmute any darkness into the light. So basically, from doing my research with this whole, I guess, article that I read, it seems that our journey right now, like our main goal is to continually just transmute that dark with our light. And so we have to continue to stay in the positive, however which way, and I guess easier said than done. But I think with the things that you're doing now, and you're about what you're saying, right? So you're not just coming up with ideas and saying, "Oh, this would be nice." You are actually putting into place, and you have this platform now that you're working. So I honor you as the human that you are, that you're bringing this into this world. When you were telling me this about the system that you've been putting into place, and also the story with Sirius, it brings goosebumps into my body. There's some kind of inner knowing that you are allowing me to tap into, because I continually ask myself, how are we going to shift? Like, how are we going to make this shift? Because the majority of the masses or whatnot, they're in this kind of level. And I don't really know what it's going to take for us as a collective to fully shift into that new earth paradigm. But, slowly kind of putting things together with what you're doing, I can kind of start seeing that path where it is up to us. Like, no one can stop us from bartering. And that's the first step in taking back control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think
You
the
know,
biggest,
go ahead.
or I was going to say, I think the biggest thing is the movement that we're going to take first is going to be going from the heart, or I mean, the head into the heart. And as we tap into the heart's gateway, which is basically just like our intuition, right? And letting that lead as opposed to the old logical way, that's going to bring forth light bulb moments that are going to blow our minds in ways that we can't even think of yet. So the way is almost, it's like walk on the way and the way appears. That's sort of how I'm seeing it's going to take place. We're going to be called to step into our hearts so that we can birth new earth from that place that's already connected to our multidimensional self and the new earth timeline that already exists now.
Do you feel that you are walking in your purpose?
I feel like, yes, this is the closest I've been to walking in my purpose that I have ever experienced yet, other than like the music. Yeah.
So you play guitar. Have you ever been in a band?
Yes, I was in a band for about 18 years or so. I did the band thing, and yeah, that was a big. That was the after my accident. That was another big message that I got to basically play music, and that's another reoccurring thing that I've been being shown that I need to start listening to.
Were you a full-time musician?
Yeah, I was a full-time musician.
Wow, that's beautiful. I think that you had mentioned in one of your videos that you are not accepting donations directly. If they want to donate, they can. Can you get into that a little bit? What do you mean by that? Why do it in that manner?
So the reason why I decided to do it in that matter is because I thought that like I know that embodying the energy of complete like trust is to get the energetics sound as a sound foundation is my mission, so to speak. So in order to do that, I'm trying to if there's any lack or anything me doing anything because of lack, I want to try to make that balanced. So that's sort of where that came in, where I was like, okay, if somebody needs a reading and they don't have any money, there are many times where I needed guidance and I didn't have the money. And so I want those people to have just a good as a chance to get a reading as anybody else. There were a lot of people who offered money. There were a lot of people who offered trade. And I kind of was like, okay, the only way that I feel like I could do this where it's legit is if I have it to where the readings are being done without any expectation. And it's first come, first serve, or if I'm just intuitively guided, or if it's an emergency, that's how I'm going to do it. If people want to donate, and then my guides were like, have a donation link open so you can leave an open door for God to bless you through, but it's not connected to expectation. So if somebody is inspired to donate because they want to, support the cause, then that's their type thing.
Yeah, I think that that has allowed me to also think about potentially providing a way for people to donate, right? And it's not me seeking for the funds, but I think that it may be a way for me to create that bridge of income from the universe, let's say, so that God can bless me in any which way possible. So why not allow another lane? And if that lane is just a click of a button and someone just so happens to provide me with the abundance that's necessary at that moment, me not creating that donate button may actually be blocking that, that blessing. I guess I just
Right.
kind of have a certain feeling towards it, right? Like I don't want to have that donate button. Did you feel any kind of negative way to have that donate button?
Yes. And it's being able to be open to receive has been hard for me my whole life. And so that was not easy. And that's sort of the way that I'm sort of being shown that is that giving and receiving is like a figure eight sort of flow. And when we block the receiving, we block the flow. And so we've got to be open to that. But I was like, how can I do this to where I know my energetics are sound? And so that's how I sort of decided to do it. But at the same time, there's a lot of people out there who were taking small steps into transitioning. There's a lot of people out there who do pay what you can. There's a lot of people out there who do information sharing to where they have a wealth of information. They're not holding any information back, right? To where they're like, okay, if I tell somebody that, then they're not going to buy my thing. A lot of people are stepping out of that fear and just sharing, knowing that if somebody wants to work further with them, that they will pay for that. So there's a lot of different ways that we can step into this new way of doing things. And everybody's what their heart's being, guided to do is exactly where they're supposed to be. And so I don't expect other people to do it the way that I'm doing it. I feel like everybody needs to follow their own heart because everybody's in a different space and not everybody's able to just jump into, okay, I'm giving it all away for free.
Yeah, but there's a certain beauty. I mean, you have inspired me in several ways. And one of them being that I believe that I have come up with an idea. I'm working on something in the background. And I think that I'm starting to resonate with the pay what you can, after kind of, listening to you and seeing your videos. I think that that would allow for so much in return, and not doing it because I'm expecting a return in a way, but yes, some people may not pay, and that's okay, but others may actually pay more than I was going to charge anyways. So why not just allow that opening there? So, I really, I thank you for that. And also, today, synchronistically, I got a call from a client of mine who needed something done for them, and so I headed over and I did the job for them. And when I was done with the job, when it was time to, do the exchange and I was gonna get paid, you popped in my head, and I told her that it was gonna be free of charge, right? It was very interesting, her response, because it didn't register for her. Like it was just so impossible for her to not pay me, right? She was
Mhm.
so taken back, right? Because that's just the norm, right? I mean, this has been my client for years. Like, why wouldn't I accept her money? So I was just allowing her to know that it's from the heart, it's all good. There was no reason for her to pay me. I just wanted to do it, out of the service.
Mhm.
And it was a great feeling. Now, I don't believe that I did that for something in return. I can only hope that subconsciously I'm not expecting something in return. I was just doing it because at that moment I'm able to, right? I have the abundance at this moment to really not have to chase that and have to take that money from her. So thank you for that as well. It was
Yes,
really amazing how you immediately popped in my head as soon as she was gonna send over the funds electronically. I said, no, 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 actually, because I was charging her. I was in the process of charging her. I let her know how much it was. And as soon as she pulled out her phone, you popped in my head, and I was like, let's try something new. So I'm gonna continue doing that, as much as I
that's so
can, just to kind
awesome.
of be of service and see where that leads me. That's awesome.
That's beautiful. And
Yeah.
that means so much to me because that's what this is all about, is showing us, helping us remember what is already there and what's always been there. That God's providing for us has always been there. And as we take these leaps of faith, we're finally able to see it happening, and it's exciting. It's exciting, and it just feels so good and feels right, as opposed to what we've been doing before.
I mean, it has glimpses of excitement and beauty in it, but we do have these bumps on the road though that we hit the wall sometimes with things, and I know there's a certain beauty to that, and at the end of this movie I'm gonna review and I'm gonna be laughing at these scenes of me hitting the wall and taking these bumps. So I do my best to be in that state of acknowledgement that everything will be provided, right? The true meaning of abundance is having exactly what you need when you need it. So if I have everything I need, I have to stay in that understanding state. But sometimes it gets so close to the call, like no, 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 hold on, and it just always comes in. But during most days, it's a battle of me trusting in my abilities to bring forward what I need at that moment in time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what I've been seeing is that the universe responds as a direct reflection to me. If I am still in fear, then I'm going to see that lack come back to me. If I am in complete trust, then I'm going to see that come back to me. And the fear inadvertently helps us step back into trust. So it's all the darkness serving the light. Like yesterday, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna I'm gonna be completely I'm letting go again. And it's a daily practice of letting go again and returning to that trust. And I let go all the way. And then in comes that $500 donation. And so it's 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 a practice of returning to that wellspring, because there's no shame or guilt into having a lot of financial abundance. That's another thing that I learned through my journey, was that God wants to bless us with even more than we could ever imagine. We just don't believe that it's possible yet. And so we've got to like practice at letting go and practice at being open to receive and the worthiness to receive and allowing that abundance in. Somebody could come and drop $100,000, or you know what I mean, like as this thing goes. So the amount of financial abundance available to us is unlimited. And like I said, that's already there. It's just we're going to see a reflection. But even when we fall, that reflection helps us to let go more. And so we're just slowly moving more towards trust as we learn.
Yeah. And I experience that regularly. There are times where something is given that I'm attempting to manifest, let's say, right? And God provides it to me, but it turns out to be not the way that I wanted it to manifest, but still God provided it to me. So there's like a certain level of, yes, trust, but also it goes back to, the question of what is the difference between getting it going and going towards it and releasing control? Like there's this fine balance that I continue to find myself now that I'm on this certain path that I'm on, like this journey. There has to be a balance that I have to continue keeping balance between the two, of when to know to release control and when to just ease off to allow the flow state to come back in. It's a very fine dance that I continue to find myself in.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it is. It's like driving a clutch, like
Yeah.
the
Yeah. With all this too, like with my belief structures that I hold in terms of certain things, I do believe that there is still some, I guess, some shadow work or some inner child work that needs to be done, and I look forward to doing it. Speaking on the healing that you've done, is there a difference between inner child healing and like shadow work, or is it all one and the same?
Yes, the there's a slight difference. So the inner child work is sort of going back and finding the root cause issues that took place when you were, mostly it's between the years of like 0 and 8. It can go up into the teens though. Going back, finding those and giving your inner child what it was you were not given by the parent or by the person in charge of who, who you were being raised by. Um, the shadow work is making the unseen seen. So our subconscious mind is programmed with thoughts of like, I'm not good enough. The shadow is sort of like the bad kid within us, or like the shadow aspect within us. And instead of like saying, oh, I don't like this about myself, or oh, I hate this about myself, or I hate when I do that, it's shining the light on that shadow, loving it with unconditional love, and reintegrating it back with non-resistance. And when we do that, you're also simultaneously healing the subconscious mind, which is also the unseen. And it's sort of like that bad kid who we sort of condemned within us will come and try to sabotage stuff through our subconscious mind. So basically, as we do the shadow work, we're healing the subconscious mind and that rejected part of us who comes up through the subconscious and tries to sabotage things.
What would be like a first step or a simple step that anyone can do to start doing that inner child healing?
The inner child healing. Basically, ask yourself, when was the first time I can remember? Say you start with your triggers, like something that triggers you a lot or something you're really wanting to work on, and say, okay, I really, I'm dealing with lack right now. Like I'm really just dealing with like lack, and asking yourself, when's the first time I can remember where I was made to feel like there wasn't enough, and go to your first memory. And you go into like a meditation, you sit with your child, you envision yourself at that age, and then you envision yourself listening to that child and having that child express to you everything it wanted to express, while you just simply hold space for that child. And then without judgment. And then after that, you basically give to that child everything it was not given at that point, by talking back and saying, you were always good enough, and I want you to know that that wasn't your fault, and I want you to know that I love you. And also, there's a process of like imagining source light coming down and feeling the parts of that child that were empty. So so in a way, you're sourcing those needs that you didn't get from your parent from source and from self. And then once you do that process, you imagine that child walking back into you so you can reintegrate it. Sometimes things need more time to work on. So the child might not be ready to come back and integrate yet. You just keep working on it until that time is right.
And I'm assuming the same process would be for shadow work, correct?
It's similar. Yeah, it's a similar process, except you are basically um, you're dealing with like, when's the first time I can remember where I was rejected, or I didn't feel like I was good enough. And you'd go with that sort of thing. Like the shadow work is more about like the part of ourselves that we don't like or that we don't approve of, and how we got that from somebody else not approving us, and healing the unapproval of self.
Yeah,
But
interesting.
it's a similar.
Do you currently work with others with this type of healing? Like, do you walk your, let's say, clients through this inner child healing?
I haven't done this kind of work in a really long time. That This was one of the very first things that I learned. But I did make two guided meditations, one that walks people through the shadow work and one that walks people through the inner child work, that I have available for free. And I can pass it on to you, and you can pass it on to anybody who needs it. Um, and it's
Do you
way
have it
more.
on a platform?
I have it on like YouTube, kind of like the other one that I sent you.
Oh, okay, interesting. So you have a YouTube. So are you making your transition over to YouTube now?
I'm not. I'm. It's sort of like there so that I had it on like a YouTube that I had that I don't really, that's not active, so that I could give it to people, type thing.
Interesting.
So
Well, I'll still add it to the description, to this video, so we can definitely tap into that. I did take a look at the video you sent me, and your voice was very calming. I loved your voice. I loved the guitar playing, so it was very nice. Um, Wait, I think I'm conflating two of the videos, but this was the Call Me Voice one, right? You had uh
Yeah, that's a whole
you had like
different modality. So the three, basically, I'll send you the three, and you can maybe pass it on to anybody who needs it, or because I don't really have them all in the same place. They're just sort of
okay.
there when they ask.
Yeah, if we can make it clickable links, yeah, definitely I'll add it to the description below if anyone's interested. We can do that. We'll take care of the back end. So it's nice to know that at least you have another platform just in case you want to go long form. Do you see yourself providing longer form content in the future?
Yes, I really do want to start doing YouTube. I just have to figure out how to make videos uh, the correct way for
Well,
long.
you seem to have mastered TikTok. If you can master
Yes.
TikTok, you can master them all, really, because that's the hardest one. I mean, I have so much trouble trying to work with TikTok and that algorithm, you know. Um, you've actually, I think in one of your videos, you had mentioned the suppression in TikTok. Is that correct?
Yes. And I don't know if that's because TikTok changed hands. I'm not really privy to if it has already changed hands or what. I just know that the algorithm has changed a lot. I just noticed that people were trying to follow me and they it said that they did, but then they went back and it unfollowed. So it's almost like gives you just enough time to make you think you followed the person, but then unfollows you when you leave. And I don't know if that's to attack like spiritual people or if it's just because they know that they have to monetize people after they get to 10,000 followers. If it's that sort of thing, like trying to make it so people take longer to get to that $10,000 mark. Otherwise, it'd be too expensive to monetize everybody. I don't know.
Wow. Yeah, I never thought about it from that way, but that would actually be genius. If they're in the boardroom, I mean, who's not going to vote on that? But I can kind of see both ways, right? Because I used to have a certain a group of following that would be on my following page, let's just say. They are no longer there. Like there are people that I used to really resonate with, and I would have to physically seek out them, their work now versus them coming into my feed regularly. And so I think that recently, in the last few months, after the whole situation with the, quote unquote, changing of hands, I do believe that a certain tunnel has been created, at least in my algorithm, where it's the same thing, And so, luckily for me now, I see it as a blessing because I am finding myself less and less attracted to TikTok. I'm trying to make my way into other platforms and try to feed my dopamine addiction somewhere else. So I'm kind of
Mhm.
getting off TikTok, but I still kind of find myself doom scrolling just because of the habit. But the major thing is like I'm seeing the same content over and over, and in this the algorithm is completely different. It's not as freeing, so it's kind of steering me away also from giving my attention to TikTok, right? Because right now I'm trying to spread myself into different directions where this YouTube video now, YouTube's my main platform, but if I'm going to chop up a video for a YouTube short, why not use that short and put it on TikTok? So I'm going to see it in that way and just, why not put it on TikTok? But my main focus, I think from here on out will be, away from TikTok simply because there's a lot of weird stuff going on there. And
Mhm.
I'll play around with maybe Instagram and also YouTube Shorts, and maybe you can do the same because I believe that the message that you have is really tremendous and it needs to get out there.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in that. I want to do the same. I want to branch out if I can.
Yeah. You had mentioned something before about, I believe, Twin Flame Journey or the Twin Flame Catalyst. What was that you were speaking of?
So the twin flame thing sort of like got popular around like 2010-ish, where people believed that they were meeting a like some people call it like the other half of their soul. That's where the twin flame the name derived from. The theory is that the same soul incarnates twice and there's two different people embodying it. Some people believe that's the case. I don't know if I resonate with that. Other people believe that it's basically just a very spiritual, charged relationship where there's intense telepathy, there's intense, just spiritual charge that activates a Kundalini awakening. And usually there's a runner and a chaser in the dynamic where one person's like, going after the other person and the other person is more avoidant, and that catalyzes the chaser to undergo extreme spiritual awakening and inner healing. And this is sort of like a catalyst. And I was in that for about 11 years, and yes, it did absolutely heal me from the inside out. though I do feel like it can be very unhealthy for people to stay in it because it's it can be like an obsession or an addiction, so it's very complicated to try to explain to anybody on the sort of like who hasn't experienced it. But long story short, it's a catalyst who comes into your life. It causes a spiritual kundalini awakening. You're basically drawn to do a lot of inner work to try to come back into union with self and source, to where you reach a spot to where you're completely okay with nothing but you and source. And then what happens is either that twin flame supposedly comes back when you've reached that point of inner union, or they were just a catalyst and you meet a soulmate and you're able to have a harmonious relationship that isn't codependent like other relationships are, because you've learned to be in union with source. That's a really bad way to explain it, but that's the best I can do.
It's the best I've ever heard, to be honest with you. I mean, I think you explained it quite well, and you gave both perspectives. You said that you were in it. What does that mean, you were in it? I guess, what is it, like kind of like a boot camp you were in?
Yes, like spiritual boot camp. No, it's I basically, like decided like I'm done with this. I'm moving on. C'est la vie. That's me being like completely done. A lot of people are, they believe that that person is going to come back at one point, and so they're in it for many, many years until they pull themselves out of it. You know?
Oh, I understand. So you were in somewhat in whatever, I guess, relationship of sorts with a being. So I thought that maybe you were part of a school learning about the twin
No,
flame. So
no,
you
no,
were
no.
expressing the experience you had with another being that you would consider the twin flame catalyst.
Yes, like a person. Yes.
Interesting. Okay, that actually, yeah, that broadens up a little bit more. So you do believe that you met your twin flame?
He was whatever that is.
Yeah.
Whatever that is
Wow.
was. So, yeah, but some people believe that, there's a lot of different theories, right? Some people believe that it's your twin flame that activates you. Some people believe that you think it's your twin flame, but really it's a catalyst that activates you. And you're really supposed to be with your soulmate. Some people believe that the catalyst is really getting you ready for your twin flame, but your twin flame isn't what you thought your twin flame was. You know what I mean? So it's the way that I see it now is that whatever God wants for me is what I want. And I'm not going to put a
Yeah.
label on it and limit myself anymore, because that can get very dogmatic and you can get in a loop that's unhealthy because you believe that this is the person you're supposed to be with.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, if you said it was a catalyst, it was definitely just like a stepping stone to get you where you need to be versus continuing on with that person. So that makes sense. You mentioned, Kundalini energy. Do you feel that you reached that point where you were able to allow it to rise?
I believe that awakening has many stages. I have had several awakening, quote unquote, awakenings. And I honestly feel like the journey is endless. And I'm at the point now to where I have found union with self and union with God, where I'm okay with nothing but me and the divine. But the journey doesn't end there. So I think there's just different stages. And I also feel like a lot of people go through those stages in different order from other people. So one person could have mastered this over here, and somebody had mastered that over there. And it's just they're doing it in opposite direction. But I believe it's endless.
Do you feel that, well, because you had mentioned your battle with like addiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel at this point in your life that you have these abilities, and I guess you're tapping more and more into your intuition? Do you ever feel pulled back to return to that addiction at any point? I mean, because these times are a bit stressful, even though they're beautiful.
Well, yes, the times are absolutely stressful. And it was that twin flame catalyst that helped me let go in such a way to where I found my rock bottom, being okay with nothing but me and source. And that rock to stand on has been my rock to stand on, to be able to let go of anything. And that's what helped me let go of the addiction. And because I let go of it in that way, and because I had the training to be able to go back and find the root causes that were making me reach out to that thing and heal those, I feel like I was able to root out at least enough of those causes, those triggers, to make it to where I killed the charge for the addiction. And because I honestly now I don't really think about that stuff anymore.
Yeah. Once again, I mean, God is quite humorous, right? Because the themes of life, it seems like we have to hit rock bottom for us to find the beauty in ourselves. Because I experienced that as well. Like, I am who I am today, and I love who I am today because of that rock bottom moment. But I mean, would I have chosen to go through it again? Now I would say
No.
yes, but it's quite an experience, right? So it's such a climactic scene in the movie of life. It's like,
Yeah.
why do we have to go through all of that to get to here, to kind of start, I guess, from the base level and build
Hmm.
ourselves back up? It's quite beautiful, I guess.
Yeah.
If you can let our audience know like one thing, what would it be?
That's kind of like if you could pick a superhero or superhero power, what would it be? Like I would probably say like to learn how to tap into your heart space, because that's going to bring forth all of the other things. Tap into, be able to come back into a place where you can connect with source energy through your higher self, so that you can access the way forward in an organic way, to where you're not being dependent on outside sources for guidance, because from that comes
I
everything else.
I would agree, and I guess I would piggyback on that by saying that for me, that journey was tapping into my gift, which allowed me to explore my passion, which has now given me purpose, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. In regards to the donation, is there a specific link that maybe I can add to the video as well?
Yes, I can send you the link. The link's in my bio on TikTok. And so,
Okay.
yeah, I can
And
send it over to you.
so TikTok is where people can find you.
Yes, for now, for this, yeah, it's mainly TikTok.
Perfect. So I'll add all that information down below just so we can go ahead and keep tabs on you, see what's going on, right? What kind of
Awesome.
house are you gonna visit next?
I know.
Yeah, I admire your journey. I think that what you're doing is so courageous, and you have really opened up my perspective in regards to what needs to be done, what can be done, what's possible, and what will hopefully occur in my reality.
Thank you
I
so
want to thank
much.
you for your time and thank you for allowing me, the opportunity. I reached out to you and you accepted me with open arms, and it's been a pleasure to speak with you. And I hope to just stay in contact with you, and hopefully we can do another one, in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Ali. It was a pleasure. We'll touch base.
Okay. Take
Have a
care.
great night. All right,
You
bye.
too.